What's up everyone, and welcome back to the Bold and the Beautiful 24 official channel. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button today. Let's get started. Carter and Daphne trade confessions. Nick busted sabotaging Forrester. The Bold and the Beautiful reveals that Carter Walton and Daphne Rose confessed to each other, while Nick Marone was caught sabotaging the latest silk delivery from Forrester Creations. Ridge Forrester had the impression that Brooke Logan was threatening to bring Nick to Italy if he didn't choose her over Taylor Hayes in the CEO office. Brooke thought Ridge loved her more than Taylor, but Nick ultimately interrupted the conversation. Nick had another opportunity to convince Brooke of all the fun they could have in Italy after Ridge left. Nick made a shady phone call after receiving updates about the Forresters' panic over a missing silk order. Nick spoke to someone about the container of silk for Forrester and said to hold it. Taylor talked to Steffi Forrester at the Forrester mansion about Eric Forrester and how he would rather Ridge be with Brooke than Ridge. Donna Logan also came along to admit she still thought Ridge and Brooke belonged together. Although Nick had gotten Brooke's attention in the past, Donna felt that Ridge was the love of Brooke's life and that Brooke was Ridge's, too. Carter smelled Daphne as she returned to the building at Forrester Creations. There was some discussion about her perfume line and additional plans for it after Carter and Eric gave Daphne a warm welcome upon her return. Daphne also mentioned all the chaos Steffi had been through and wanted to support her. Carter eventually told Daphne that he'd missed seeing her, so she confessed she missed him too, though she was surprised to hear him admit it on his end. However, Carter insisted they were friends and that he was glad to see Daphne again. After Carter asked how long Daphne would be sticking around, she could only give him a cryptic, "We shall see." Before receiving a phone call regarding the delayed silk shipment, he argued with Eric about Nick back with Ridge. When Ridge heard that Nick's shipping company had delayed it, he was furious. After Ridge put Nick on full blast over the sabotage, Nick tried to explain it away and made another phone call to move the shipment along. Ridge began ranting about Nick's inappropriate behavior toward Logan and refused to allow him to do so. Nick told Ridge to shut up and stop calling Brooke that since he was marrying another woman. Nick versus Ridge, Donna's defense, Carter's reunion. The Bold and the Beautiful Carter Walton reunites with Daphne Rose. Nick Marone and Ridge Forrester feud once again. Brooke Logan begs. Brooke Logan continues begging Ridge. Taylor Hayes, according to the blonde, is more important to him than she is. Nick suddenly walks in and guesses what's going on. Ridge blasts his rival for interrupting a place of business. Brooke states that she requires time with Nick. Ridge flees violently. Nick reminds her of his promise. She's going to see Naples and Capri like the locals. Anything can happen in Italy. Brooke says it's not a vacation. Nick suggests that it might be. They ought to perform magic together. Carter Walton's reunion. In another office, Carter and Eric Forrester are talking. Then, they suddenly smell something. Daphne is the one who says that everything is wonderful. Carter and Eric are thrilled Daphne is back. However, she's there to support Steffi Forrester Finnegan after Liam Spencer's shooting. Eric exits. Carter compliments her new scent. He longs for Daphne. "How long are you staying?" he asks. The nose responds simply, "We'll see." Rants Ridge Forrester. Ridge discusses Nick with Eric. The patriarch is perplexed as to why Nick constantly gets in Ridge's way. Ridge won't talk about it. Will Spencer calls to inquire about missing silk. Nick has the shipment. Ridge goes to Nick to complain about Nick taking their silk hostage. Brooke pleads with Nick, who has it immediately released. Ridge, according to Nick, only needs to ask nicely. Ridge demands that Nick stay away from my Logan. The seaman calls out Ridge for being engaged to another woman. Tea from Taylor Hayes over at Eric's house. Taylor and Steffi are chatting about Liam's miracle. Taylor hopes to have a miracle of her own. Specifically, not sending Brooke to Italy. The girls discuss how Brooke is using Nick to make Ridge jealous. Donna Logan walks in. They ambush her with questions about Nick and Brooke. Donna claims that her sister has only one man of interest. Taylor thinks Nick can romance Brooke back. Donna doesn't like this idea. Taylor reasons that the blonde needs to move on from Ridge. Donna just wants her sister to be happy. Taylor comprehends that, but Nick can cheer her up. Donna disagrees and makes it abundantly clear that she will always be on Team Ridge. At Forrester Creations, under the elegant glow of curated lighting and the scent of couture fabrics hanging heavy in the air, Carter Walton stood frozen in the design office. his heart skipping a beat as the unmistakable fragrance of Daphne Rose swept in before her actual presence. It had been months since he'd last seen her, months since her sudden departure from Los Angeles and from his life, leaving behind only mystery and a lingering aroma he couldn't quite forget. She was back, and Carter couldn't figure out why she was smiling cryptically as she confidently entered the building. "Everything's magnificent," she declared, as though no time had passed, as though she hadn't left behind questions and whispered promises with no answers. While Carter was equally pleased to see her, he was unable to ignore the undercurrent of tension that pulsated beneath their reunion. While Eric Forrester was genuinely pleased by her return and full of praise for her successful fragrance line, he gave her a warm welcome. The deeper questions neither had dared to ask the previous time they had been this close were hidden behind the easy smiles and casual flirtations. Daphne softened as Eric left, and Carter admitted that he missed her at that moment. Daphne was clearly moved by the honest moment, one of those rare confessions that comes out before self-protection can build its walls. She admitted she missed him too, though she seemed surprised pleasantly, yes, but also wary. When Carter asked how long she planned to stay in LA this time, Daphne gave him a cryptic smile and responded with a teasing, "We'll see." It wasn't a declaration of commitment, nor a promise of departure, but a mystery Carter knew better than to ignore. A storm that had the potential to shake Forrester Creations from the inside out was brewing elsewhere in the building at the same time. Ridge Forrester was still reeling from an emotional fight with Brooke Logan, the woman who had played tug-of-war with his heart for decades, in the CEO office. She was offering a path back to each other, but to Ridge, it felt like an ultimatum. Choose her or she goes to Italy with Nick. Ridge's jaw clenched at the mention of the name. Brooke asserted that Ridge loved her more than Taylor Hayes because of their shared history and passion, but Nick Marone entered the room grinning like a devil who had discovered an open door before the conversation could progress. "Well, well, well," he quipped, pretending innocence but clearly reveling in the tension. Ridge bristled and exited, unable to stomach more of Nick's presence, leaving Brooke alone with her past, a past that still sang to her in Nick's deep, roguish voice. With Ridge gone, Nick leaned in with more charm and charisma than should be legal, selling Brooke a vision of Italy that was less business trip and more seductive fantasy. The Isle of Capri, the rolling waves, the private yacht where anything can happen, his words hung in the air like perfume. Brooke giggled, playfully resisting, insisting this was a professional venture, not a romantic getaway. However, Nick Marone had always straddled the line between work and pleasure. And while the charm offensive was underway, Nick was already up to something else, something that reached far beyond his pursuit of Brooke. Upon learning from Brooke that Forrester's silk order had gone missing, Nick had made a quick, cryptic phone call. "Hold the container," he instructed someone on the other end. It turned out that person worked for Nick's own company, Marone Shipping. What began as a flirtation now twisted into a full-blown scheme. Nick was holding the silk shipment hostage, and while he claimed it was for business, the timing was too perfect, too convenient, too much like sabotage. Back at the Forrester mansion, Taylor Hayes vented to her daughter, Steffi Forrester, about the mess unfolding. They both agreed that Eric wanted Ridge to reunite with Brooke, despite all logic and past heartbreaks. Taylor didn't believe Brooke's intentions. It was clear that she was using Nick to make Ridge jealous. Even as Taylor and Steffi rolled their eyes, Donna Logan joined them and reiterated her firm belief that Ridge and Brooke belonged together. Donna insisted Brooke only had eyes for Ridge, but even she had to admit that Nick had turned her head in the past and could possibly do it again. Taylor pushed the idea that maybe Brooke needed someone new. Maybe Nick was that someone. Donna didn't agree, firmly in Team Bridge camp, but her face betrayed a flicker of uncertainty. The past had a way of repeating itself in this town. Back at Forrester Creations, Ridge received a phone call from Will Spencer, alerting him that the silk shipment was being held up by Marone Shipping. Ridge burst open. Eric tried to calm him down by suggesting that he think about why Nick got so into his skin. But Ridge didn't want psychoanalysis. He wanted results. Furious, he marched back into the office and confronted Nick directly. "You're sabotaging us," he barked. Nick laughed it off at first, pretending innocence, until Ridge laid it all out. Nick's ship contained his silk. That was not an accident. Brooke intervened, pleading with Nick to fix it, and he did sort of. With a smirk, Nick authorized the release of the shipment right there on the spot. "See," he said smoothly. "All you had to do was ask nicely." Ridge wasn't amused. He said that Nick had come to Los Angeles solely to play with other people's lives, especially Brooke's. "Stay away from my Logan," Ridge snarled. That's when Nick lost his patience. He yelled, "Shut up! And stop calling her that. You're going to marry another woman." The hypocrisy hit Ridge like a slap. If he was with Taylor, he had no right to claim Brooke. Nick was correct, but Ridge would not back down. As the two men stood inches apart, testosterone thick in the air, Brooke was once again caught in the middle of the eternal triangle, a position she knew all too well. She wanted Ridge to choose her, to finally stop running to Taylor, but she also couldn't ignore the way Nick made her feel. The nostalgia, the chemistry, the freedom. Meanwhile, in the hallway, Carter and Daphne continued their heart-to-heart, unaware of the chaos unraveling just a few doors down. While Daphne was there for Steffi during Liam Spencer's surgery and recovery, she also had her own reasons for returning, she admitted. Carter pushed gently, wanting more. Daphne only gave him part of the truth. The rest, like the fact that she had overheard whispers about Nick's agreement to hold the silk, she kept to herself. She wasn't involved, not directly, but she knew things Carter didn't, and that knowledge sat between them like an unspoken promise. Carter, ever the loyalist, believed in people more than he should. He believed in Daphne. But he knew deep down that she was being cautious. Their reunion felt sweet on the surface, but there were layers beneath it, layers Carter wasn't sure he wanted to peel back just yet. Later, as the day waned and the silk shipment finally arrived at Forrester Creations, the emotional damage lingered. Ridge was furious, Brooke was torn, Nick was emboldened, and Daphne?